Welcome into the house. Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to interlude with a little piece on what I'm calling the cancer of competition. Some of the root causes of this said cancer, where it comes from. Then we're going to tie that right into Juneteenth. Okay, that is Juneteenth, the holiday that is coming up, how this relates. Then we're going to touch on levels of narcissism. Then to close out with Devon Franklin and Megan Good and what they showed us and taught us as a couple. Let's go. So why am I calling it the cancer of competition, right? Why so dramatic? Why so serious, right? Cancer is a disease. It's degenerative. It causes harm. So why would I compare competition to cancer? And what does this have to do with women? What does this have to do with you and me? What does this have to do with society? Since the beginning of what we now see as Western civilization, right? In every normalized society, before women were ever able to be seen as whole people, they were pulled together in lineups, right? And displayed as sort of commodities, okay, and measured against each other. And it's done actually quite innocently, like I said before. Sometimes, it's in connection with university, as you see here. There's some pageants. I think these dates are dating back to 1940, okay? Before women were seen as whole functioning people in a society. They were presented in groups of them, and often being looked at for their body type, their height, maybe if they were going to school, if that's a big if, what their profession was, okay. And in politics, that was also sort of sporty. It was something that was done, I don't know, after a debate or after a lecture, where they just have a pageant piece, right? That'd always be like the end of a major event, and women would walk down the runway. I don't think they were called runways then, right? And they would compete for a title. Now, the way in which this became normalized was because they'd offer the girls, some bells and whistles, a little benefit, maybe a scholarship, right? Maybe some money, okay? Just something that would encourage women to go ahead and sign up for that competition, okay? Meanwhile, all the while and all throughout the competition, you're really just being looked at for your physical attributes. Let's keep it 100. Not personality per se, maybe smile, maybe look, maybe face, maybe structure, maybe even culture, where you're from real quick. But who you are was irrelevant. Your beingness, your individuality was completely irrelevant, which is amazing. But this is how it quietly, innocently, right? And, quite subtly got woven into the fabric of our modern day society. So going back to cancer, and pardon, because cancer is not a pretty topic. It's actually quite a sad topic for many people. And if you've ever had someone who you've lost to cancer, or you've ever dealt with it yourself, you understand that it's nothing to play with. Okay, and so it's on people who have dealt with that. Now, if you look at the actual disease, however, for what it is, you'll see that it's actually a very fascinating condition, right? If you really look at how cancer comes about, okay, because like competition, cancer actually starts off very innocently, right? It starts off with your very own cells, right? Which starts to change in their behavior and how they grow. Okay, one minute your cells are growing and acting normally. The next minute, one of the cells or a few cells start to grow abnormally, right? And this abnormal growth in the beginning, if you go to the doctor and he finds it, what the doctor will tell you is, oh, no worries, you have a benign growth here, right? Benign means it's not cancer. Benign should actually mean we don't know what it is yet. But because doctors are not really allowed to say, I don't know, they'll give it a name, right, to tell you what it's not. And people are starting to see through this. I'll go into that later. But if you go to the doctor and he sees something happening abnormally, an abnormal growth, and it's not causing you any harm right now, he'll say you have an abnormal growth, but it's benign. It's not cancer yet. So, hey, listen, if it doesn't bother you, you don't have to bother it. You ever heard a doctor tell you that? I've had a doctor tell me that. If it's not bothering you, don't bother it. And so they'll let you go on in your life with something growing in your body, which serves no purpose that they know of yet, right? But because it's not doing any harm yet, you're just given, some meds, some sedatives or whatever, something to calm you down about it. And you're told to go about your merry way. But what people, are starting to realize is that a benign growth can be seen and should be seen as something just as dangerous as a growth that's actually cancer. I'm going to go back to this. What is cancer? Cancer is a growth that starts off completely innocent. Okay, an abnormal change in the behavior of your own cells. That at some point, a point that's not announced to you, that growth, right, starts to rapidly increase to the point where it starts to go too quickly and those growths start to actually eat other cells. Okay, from the point where it gets from benign to actually cancerous, the cells are now trying to eat other cells in your body. It's your body starting to work against itself. Mind you, your cells, they're all individual pieces. They're supposed to work in cooperation with each other, right? To keep your body healthy. You're one body. But once your cells start to change their behavior and act in such a way where they need to eat other cells, you are now told you have cancer. If you really analyze what I just told you, from beginning to end, you actually always had cancer from the beginning of that abnormal change in behavior of your cells. And so the whole way cancer is looked at from beginning to end, if they would only take it seriously from the first abnormal action, most people would not have even had to get cancer. And I say all that to say that was a mouthful. I'm not a disclaimer, not a doctor, nurse, or anything like that. But I've looked at what cancer is, known people who've had it, went into remission, fought it, right? Dealt with benign, non-cancerous growths in the past myself. And I know now that I approach my health very differently. Anything that serves no purpose, that's growing abnormally or doing something weird, you address it right away. You don't wait until it becomes a problem to deal with the problem. Going back to competition and why the cancer of competition is so subtle, so damaging, okay? And the fact that so many people change their behavior or start to ignore or been told to ignore the symptoms of competition, okay, is actually part of the problem. Now, one symptom of competition, let me just give you the spoiler, is too much comparison. Okay. Comparison is a symptom and an element of competition, which more times than not leads to people competing against each other. And so, whether you're comparing yourself too much to other people or being compared or feeling the urge to compare others, understand that you're embarking on something that could be very harmful to both parties, to everyone involved, because cancer competition as what's being noticed by many people is actually doing more harm than good. Let's go.
Important disclaimer, while I'm not a medical doctor, I have had and been diagnosed with benign tumors more than once in my lifetime myself and have successfully shrunken, if not completely eliminated those tumors using holistic methods. Keep that in mind. Competition and comparison is done so rampantly that even women themselves fall into the natural habit of competing. So not only does society, and people in society do it, but now the women themselves are just that's our automatic response. Most times. It's still like a 2% or 3% of women who don't do that. I've eradicated most of my comparison competition issues. Okay, if not all of them. We all have room to grow, right? But I do so intentionally. I'm not interested in jealousy because that's what the end of the road is of competition. It's comparison to competition to jealousy. I'm not interested in any one of them. And yes, I'll get offended if I see someone planting a seed for that. They may not be aware of it. I realize that it's just such a normal thing. I'm aware of it. And I don't like it. I've seen what it did to my relationship with my biological sister. I've seen what it does to other sisters. I've seen what it does to teenagers who are depressed, who jump off buildings, who feel, all this unnecessary pressure to look like this and look like that. It's not helping. What you're thinking and where I rate on your favorites list is literally none of my business. And that goes for any other female. But moving into Juneteenth, remember I said I was going to, mention Juneteenth. Juneteenth is that holiday that celebrates the slaves that were in Texas, that were in the Deep South, right? Who were completely unaware that slavery had been abolished, okay? I mean, most of you have heard the Juneteenth story or the story behind it. Look it up. Look up Juneteenth, what it means. Slavery was abolished, okay? And most of the United States was fully aware of it, but there were some slaves that were so disconnected from people, okay? Even though the slave masters in Texas knew that slavery was abolished, the slaves had no idea, right? So they didn't mention it. They let them keep being slaves, hoping they would never find out, I guess, until literally people had to come and make trips down to that area in Texas and let them know, yo, what are you doing? Slavery is over. Okay, and so they had obviously they went nuts, had celebrations or what have you. Somehow, I wasn't there, I don't know. But it was a major thing. And I make that connection because those of us who are sisters, who have fallen into the very habit of something that was actually created to suppress us and to keep us fighting and to keep, that divide and conquer principle, to keep us constantly warring. Some of us don't even realize we're doing it. Some of us are under that same spell. Some of us encourage the oppression. We encourage the mentality. There's a lot of sisters who will completely stand behind a good competition. And again, I don't mean in sports, business, or other types of careers or whatever. I'm talking about personal competition. Okay? Completely unaware that that's beyond damaging to them very selves. And going back to my sister, I realized why every time we got together, every time we did get along, and those were the minority of the time, every time we actually did get along and work on something together, forget it. I was sorry for anybody who tried to come between us. When we worked on anything together with one mind, we were a force to be reckoned with. Even she will tell you that. It was ridiculous. We were perfectly complementary people as two sisters. We ran track together. We won several races when we were on the same team. And anything we did together, I was scared for you if you tried to come against us. We were very powerful together, individually as well, but together, it was a wrap. But when I realized every time we were actually in harmony, we would kind of, flow together and actually be getting along. Somebody on the outside, somebody with us, just anybody would come in and plant a little seed of doubt in one of our mind about the other. And to this day, I don't understand why that was able to work at all. But we already had our own insecurities growing up the way that we did. I'll go into that in other videos. But we had other insecurities. So any little seed, someone would always come right between and create a separation, create a comparison, plant a seed that will later grow into full-blown jealousy, deep-seated resentment. Or beat her, give her a whipping over something that we both did. And tell her, well, I'm not going to beat her. She's the good one. Or whatever they said. Constant separation, foolishness. Once you start sparring and warring, those people are now separate. It doesn't bring anyone together. So So we're going to touch on Devon and Megan Franklin in the next video. I've decided just now to address that couple in the next one. They deserve their own video. But just to wrap this up, competition, comparison. If you find yourself doing it, ladies, just stop. Just stop. You're not going to be her. She's not going to be you. Okay? We naturally emulate and copy each other anyway. Brothers, women naturally emulate and copy each other. Good God, do we copy each other? It happens naturally. Put two women in a room, somebody's going to emulate the other naturally. And so brothers, or just anyone, if you want to see someone be more like the other for whatever reason, okay, put them in the room, bring them together somehow if you can. And naturally, one is going to emulate or begin to emulate the other if they choose to. That's what women already do. Respectfully, it is completely unnecessary for you to come out your face, okay, and trophy one person, somebody you just met that you're out of your mind excited about. It's unnecessary for you to trophy her and start running the lip about how much this one needs to do this like that one because, you know, it's just this is how it should be and rah, rah, rah. It's completely unnecessary. They can make that choice respectfully on their own, should they have the opportunity to actually meet each other, okay, and learn who each other is. We don't need a chaperone or someone to dictate that at all.